Thunder Mountain to stop and say hi to some friends. And now I'm going to end up riding this Deuce. Loud enough for you? I'm also riding with Mary again. And Mary might be purchasing this. And that would be a Road King. So let's go roll some thunder.
All right.
Okay, this bike is heavy. Mirrors are good. Rock and roll. Yep. First off, let's talk about the weather. I can't do anything about it. This Deuce looks gorgeous inside Thunder Mountain and would dazzle anyone in the sunlight, which we appear to be running out of today. It's up there, beyond a mix of clouds and smoke from far-off forest fires. I will be comparing this bike to my Honda Fury, and the comparison may surprise you. Both bikes are beautiful. The Softail Screaming Eagle Deuce CVO was only made in 2003 and 2004 in the York, Pennsylvania plant. For those who don't know, CVO is a distinct label in the Harley lines, and it stands for Custom Vehicle Operations. That tends to make them somewhat collectible. What it means is that CVO bikes are a limited edition upgrade of the standard models and feature larger engines, custom paint with hand pinstriping, and additional accessories. Trust me, I'm underselling it, but I'm not a salesperson by trade. The paint, the chrome, and the Screaming Eagle 1550cc engine caught my eye immediately in the showroom. Mary is test riding a Road King, I believe it was 2007, with intent to purchase for use as a cone bike, meaning riding through a maze of traffic cones for perfecting slow speed type maneuvers. Mary is also an MSF instructor and works at Thunder Mountain's Harley Davidson Riding Academy. When she's done with the street test, she will take it on the bear training course, meaning it doesn't have any cones yet. She doesn't know it, but I intend to follow her on the Deuce. And I've never even tried a course before. That's not bragging, it's actually a weakness. I had a really easy DMV test back in the late 1900s, and I've had my license ever since. I recommend the training course because I've learned to ride the hard way, trial and lots of error, and I'm still learning. But back to this Softail Deuce. It's a blast to ride. It's much like the Fury in the long rake in the front. The Deuce has a wheelbase of 67 inches or so. My Fury has 71. That makes the Deuce easier to turn than the Fury. The Deuce CVO engine is about 95 cubic inches. The Fury is 80 cubic inches, but it is water cooled, which bridges a tiny bit of the gap. To me, both engines felt pretty similar. The CVO engine, of course, had a little more grunt to it. However, the CVO engine also sounded better than the Fury. The Fury has a lot of ticks and clicks in it, and the CVO engine just sounded very smooth, very deep. But then again, with those loud pipes, who could tell what the engine sounded like? This particular Deuce has had Vance and Hines pipes put on, and from the way it purrs, or potatoes, it has been tuned to those pipes, maximizing its horsepower. The engine is just about perfect for this bike. I was very impressed. Let's just move right into my triple cheese BLT review system, shall we? My subscribers have seen it before, so let's do the abridged version. T for tech. Well, it's 2004. Most people were still sporting flip phones. The word iPhone didn't exist. Some cars had information computers, but most didn't. So we can't judge tech in a 2004 bike by today's ride mode standards. The Deuce has the basics, and it wasn't meant to be a touring bike. It has an analog fuel gauge, a speedometer, and a tachometer. I'll give it a 7 because it's really all you need on this bike, although a few other options existed in other brands at the time. C is for clutch. The clutch on the Deuce CVO is hydraulic, not terribly hard to pull back, and I had zero trouble with it. I give it a 9. H is for handling. I think it handles very well for a long raked bike with Softail suspension. Easier to steer than my Fury. It's not nearly as nimble as the Road King though, and certainly less than a standard like a Triumph. I'm not sure I would recommend you take your motorcycle license training with it. It also is really heavy, surprisingly, to pull off the side stand. More than my Goldwing, which weighs nearly 200 pounds more. I thought I'd just flip this baby right up, but I was wrong. It took some effort. Maybe the lean angle is more acute than other bikes. I'm not sure. It was just heavy. Either way, anyone less muscular than I will find it a bear wrestle until they get used to it. So I give handling a 6. E for engine. It has plenty of grunt, and being a twin-cam 95B engine, it is counterbalanced to remove some of the paint-shaking vibration of a typical HD engine of the times. I found it comfortable with no noticeable heat rising up from it, but it is not yet water-cooled in 2004 when other brands of bikes were. Harley was late to the water-cooling party. Twin cams are known for cam chain issues, so I'll give it a 7. E for ergonomics. The seat and bars are better fitting than the Fury, but not as comfortable as that Road King Mary is riding. I'll give it a 6. It's not great for an all-day ride, but it never really was meant to be. S is for sound. Well, it's going to be too loud for my neighbors. I'm sure of that, but the sound is very deep and engaging. I'll admit it adds an extra level of fun to the ride. How does one judge a bike with aftermarket pipes, though? At this volume, every police officer out there will hear me coming, so I'll give it a 7. E for expense. Well, CVOs aren't a giveaway, usually. The list price was around $27,000 in 2004. That's more than most cars at the time. Blue Book and NADA both say this bike is currently worth around $9,000. And Thunder Mountain will probably want to slap me for saying that on YouTube. I'm not going to tell you what I was quoted, because I didn't actually sit down to get the explanation. But I'm telling you now, I simply won't pay over NADA value for a used bike. The banks base their loans on that NADA value, and you can look it up on Google just as easily as a bank can. However, this is a CVO, and collectors might be willing to pay more than NADA value. I don't know. I've never collected a CVO. I score based on what my bank and I are willing to pay, not what the dealer knows they can get for it. What about fuel expense? Well, premium gas, of course, which right now is over $4 a gallon up where I live. So, what is the score for the expense? I'm going to hurt you. It's going to be a 4. If I had to buy it, I'd be paying for it. B for braking. The front brake was squishy, which is how I remember HD brakes of that time period. I didn't like it then. That hasn't changed as the bike got older. Mary said the same about the Road King. You do get used to it though, and the brakes on both bikes did stop adequately. So I'll give it a 6. L for looks. Oh, it owns the looks department. I'll give it a 9 right up front. It's an eye-catcher in any parking lot. The only thing cooler in the culture than riding a Harley Davidson is owning a Harley Davidson CVO. It looks like the chrome was dipped in chrome, and the paint is certainly above reproach. I'd give it a 10 if the rims had more than 3 supports. T for transmission. Surprisingly for a V-twin of its age, the transmission was neither clunky nor short-geared. It's a 5-speed, with the engine torque at the front takeoff, but pleasurable the rest of each gear too. I'll give it an 8. So, add that all up, the overall score comes to 69. It's not a bad number, right? 69 should go with a CVO. Remember, no bike is perfect. I've yet to ride a 100. So my top score is closer to 90. The brakes and the price, let me go back and say that again, and the price could be better. Maybe they will quote you something less than what I heard. I'll admit though, I didn't try riding up the bike, and I know that Thunder Mountain would work with me if I was that serious. They know what they got better than I do, and will probably get what they are asking for. Still, this is my scoring system, people. 69. Overall, I was not eager to get off the bike. In fact, I actually enjoyed it way more than my Fury. The chrome is real, not plastic billet. The paint is glorious. The engine was a fine performer. And the seat felt very comfortable. It's the price that made me walk away, but for someone who has more money and garage space than I do, go for it. Buy it. Now wait a minute. You know, the looks of this bike really have me in love with it. And I have to admit I really like that deep sound it had too. I don't think I gave enough points for looks. Let's forgive the collector's price for a minute and show some love to that chrome. I'm adding 20 points for a total score of 89. It is a bike to be proud of if you can get it in your stable, that's for sure. Now let's watch Mary ace this training course while I mess it all up. And while I'm trying to stay within these lines, it reminds me to tell you to keep your chin up in the curves of the road and in the curves of life.
into the box.